Hello there, and welcome everyone to another episode of the Trusted Advisor Show. Today we have a very, very special guest. And obviously you guys know my name is Rob Jacomen, and I'm your host today. I'm also joined with my co-host, Ryan Staton. But we are extremely honored and blessed to have a very special guest, Kate Lawrence. Now, Kate probably doesn't need much of an introduction, but I'm going to give it anyway. Kate is very, very well known in the Baltimore and the Maryland region in general. She is an attorney, very, very experienced in the construction and contracting world. That's how I got to know Kate and was introduced to her. She is extremely sharp and has so much knowledge and so much experience to share with us today. We just absolutely had to have her on the show, and we're really honored to learn more about her and her experience. And we want to dive right into, learning how she got into the legal profession and building such a successful law practice. And obviously, I was introduced to her by Ryan, and I know, Ryan, you want to you'd like to take the lead here and ask Kate her first question, but we'll just dive right in right now and get started.
Yeah, well, thanks, Rob. I'm excited to have Kate. Kate, thanks for being here with us today. I'm excited.
Thank you guys for having me.
Obviously, we've known each other for a long time and become friends, outside the professional world. But I'm excited to get an opportunity to kind of showcase to our networks, as well as your network, a deeper dive into your business and kind of how you got started and just learn a little bit more about your story. But in the interest of keeping this fun, I always like to start off with a question that's a little it's not that far outside the box, but we like to ask, we're going to talk a lot about your professional life today, but tell us something interesting about yourself that doesn't show up on your professional bio.
That's a great question.
All right, Ryan. Well, I'm just going to go for it right in the beginning. I have a rec cornhole championship, and I'm just kidding. Ryan and I are on a championship cornhole team together. We won that championship in Little Havana in Baltimore, and that's one of the greatest achievements of my life. No.
You still have that trophy?
I like to say just to be, no, I don't. I think I lost the little trophy. It was a boot that they filled with beer. It was a glass boot. But I like to say my full-time job is being a mom. This is just what I do. This is just what I do for fun. But yeah, my life is just practicing law and hanging out with toddlers. So pretty well-rounded. Yeah. I don't know if that helps your.
No, that's good. I had a feeling you were going to go there with the cornhole story, which is why.
That's awesome.
And we can't forget to mention.
I tell everyone that, by the way. It's not just you guys.
Yeah,
it's a great question.
You can't forget to mention that your husband was a big part of that championship run as well.
Oh yeah, he takes all the credit.
Yeah. Jumping into it, just give us a little bit of background about your business, how you got started as an attorney, and tell us a little bit more about your journey into starting and creating Lawrence Law.
Okay, so I kind of grew up around the construction industry. So my father he was a purchasing agent at a construction supply company that focused in concrete. So like science projects when I was a young kid were always like construction and concrete related, and so I grew up really comfortable around the people. I always knew that the guy with dirty boots could be the wealthiest man in the room. And so that kind of philosophy, being raised that way, that kind of philosophy really stuck with me as I started my legal career. And so I worked at a couple firms. Most recently, it's not really that recent anymore, but the last firm that I worked at was a construction firm, Wagenheim Law in Hunt Valley. And I was taught how to do construction litigation. I was a young associate on the front lines helping contractors, primarily helping contractors get paid. That's a huge issue in the construction industry, collections.
Yep.
it's very difficult to find a contractor to whom someone doesn't owe money. Like they naturally have issues.
Sure.
And so I really got to know the industry and really love the industry. And they're such gracious people, you know, in a lot of like the banking and finance industries. I love them, but you're just kind of treated like a necessary evil. But when you help out a contractor, somebody who is really good in their field, but just needs a little bit of guidance in the business and legal side of things, they're just very gracious people. And I like spending time with them, you know, so it makes my job easy, and not always easy, but it makes my job fun because I really enjoy the people that I work around. So I worked for Wagenheim for a couple of years and then started to build my own book of business at a pretty early stage in my career. And, you know, going through college and law school, I'd racked up a good bit of student loan debt. And so I wasn't really getting anywhere with entry level salaries, you know. I knew that I had to make real money quickly in order to be able to finance the education that I had already paid for.
Sure.
So I felt, you know, like I wanted to make real money quickly, honestly. And I had to, like, if I was going to build a life for myself, I mean, I was truly, like, giving you the numbers, I was making 70 grand and like not saving money and eating ramen noodles because my student loans were that bad. And I share that with young people who want to go to law school. Like, hey, I'm, you know, fully support you, but you got to figure out how you're going to pay for that, because it can really suck later on. So I grew up in a family of like hardworking people, and I knew that I wanted to make money quickly, and I was building my own client base at Wagenheim, but decided, with the encouragement of a couple of clients and friends, and my now husband, we weren't married at the time. He has always been my biggest fan, and decided to start Lawrence Law in 2013. And it was literally just me at my kitchen table with a laptop and some insurance, right? Some malpractice insurance, of course. Going back to my husband, like, so deciding to start the business was difficult. What was even more difficult is when I got offered a job from a firm that I'd interviewed with before, offering me more money than I ever made before. And I had to make a second decision as to like, what if I was just going to can this whole Lawrence Law thing that'd been going on for 6 months, or turn it down and proceed. And he was like, you got to try this. Like, you've done all this legwork to get it set up. It seems like that's where you're, you know, that's what's in your heart. That's what you want to do. Don't burn the bridge, but move on and tell them no. So I did. And looking back, I'm like, you were crazy. That was nuts. I can't believe you gave me that advice, or that you were that cool with it, but we didn't have anything to lose. So, yeah. So, I guess from there, I've just focused on construction. We do a lot more now, other than just construction litigation and contracts and things like that. But that's always going to be my bread and butter. It's just helping contractors. So
I have a question. Kate, you have an awesome story, right? And that's one of the things that we love to do and talk about and showcase on the show is diving a little deeper into that journey and sharing more about that experience. Like, when you first got started, maybe share a little bit about, because I always think this is so good for young people or anyone who's interested in taking that leap of faith and saying, like, I've got what it takes to be successful. But talk a little bit about what it was like early on when you maybe didn't have any clients and you're sitting there at your kitchen table with your laptop. What was that feeling like? And what were some of the struggles that you encountered along the way on your journey?
So the feeling was like, so there were good things about it, For one, I was in control, complete control of my life, right? If I wanted to like blow off an afternoon, I could, right? That was not what I should have been doing at the time. So I didn't do that very often. But like that, I'd never felt that before. Like I'd always had a demanding employer who wanted FaceTime, and I needed to be sitting, in an office. So there were good things about it, right? Like I was in complete control of my life. At least I thought so, because there became a point where from 9 to 5, and this had to be done, right? But there was definitely a point in my life from 9 to 5, I was out meeting with prospects. So, coffee, lunch, drinks, like 5 days a week, just asking people for work, right? And so then that only left the evenings and the weekends for actually doing the legal work. So I just had no life. It was all about business. I don't know if I could, it would be very difficult to replicate that with children who need me like they do now.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time I had my husband and I were engaged. He was in full support of me, succeeding. And I think that is truly like what you have to have, is a partner in life who has your back no matter what, is willing to listen to your struggles, is willing to like give advice or not give advice when the situation calls for it, is willing to say like, hey, if you screw this up, I can cover the bills, like just go see what happens. So you really need, in that, even to this day, like having somebody to support you when you've had a tough day or when you have to fire someone is, it's just so important. So some of your questions too, when we were preparing for this, were about like being a woman in the
Mm-hmm.
legal industry and just a woman with an ambitious career, and just going back to having a spouse that's supportive, like I know it's kind of cliche now, but Sheryl Sandberg and Lean In, like she talks all about how you have to have, it's one thing for the industry to change and for the world to change in terms of, diversity and inclusion of women and in the workplace. And it's one thing for the employers to change, but that can't happen unless like the husband and father at home are just as supportive as the boss in the workplace, like everybody on both sides of a woman's life have to be, fully supportive and willing to, do the childcare duties or, cooking, grocery, things like that. Like it's not traditional gender roles. Yeah. It's not traditional. Yeah, for sure. Anyway.
It's so interesting because you're bringing up, like, this is what I think this took a turn that I didn't expect, but actually there's a bigger point and a bigger value here for everyone listening or watching. And that is the importance of having, being in business, it isn't always rosy. It isn't always like, this glamorous, you can take off anytime you want and you're the boss and all that other stuff. Times get tough, but you have to have, I think the point you were trying to make is having a support system, having a network of truly trusted advisors that you can pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I'm having a really bad day. I'm having a rough time. Or, hey, can you make introductions for me? Or it's having that support system that is so critical to business. I would probably argue with just about anybody that is the relationships are the single most important aspect of building a successful business. Because if you don't have that fortress of relationships, then who are you going to turn to? Who are you going to turn to when things are tough? Who are you going to support when things are great? It goes the other way too. And, the challenge that I'm curious, the challenge of being a woman and trying to grow a business, an entrepreneur, especially in a male dominated world, like the construction industry, what challenges did that entail? Like when you're making all those calls and you're trying to build your business, what kinds of challenges did you face while you were doing that?
So I think, like you said, just kind of capitalizing on the relationships that I had just to get a meeting. And then it became really important that I knew my shit. Like I needed to make it very clear that I was the smartest person that this guy knew, in terms of construction litigation or contract review. And so I started giving presentations through ABC Baltimore. And eventually I got asked to be on the board at ABC, and now I'm the chapter attorney. So I think that ABC gave me a lot of influence and a lot of opportunity and got me into a lot of rooms that I would not have otherwise been in. You know what I mean? Like the presentations for sure are one of the most money-making opportunities that I've ever really taken advantage of. So presenting on how to get paid for a contractor, we could fill a room of construction companies.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I can see why they'd be interested in that.
Agreements. Tracks.
And then following up with them,
Yep.
like, hey, let's have lunch. I want to learn more about ABC Electric, just making it up. So yeah.
That's awesome.
You gotta have, for sure, like, I hear what you're saying. I feel like I'm in two male dominated industries at the same time, right? The construction industry and the legal industry. So for my confidence level to even ask for those lunches and things, I knew that I had to know my stuff. Like just to be able to have lunch and have a conversation with somebody. I over prepared for sure a lot.
Just to get a seat at the table, is a challenge, right? And to try to prove yourself, which you have obviously nothing to prove other than that, your intelligence and your ability to deliver a result that they're looking for, what's most important for them. And I think it sounds like you've been able to do that. And that's another gold nugget for everybody who's listening. Right there you go, is delivering value is such an important, knowing your shit, to use your term, knowing your shit and delivering on it. It's so important for business.
Right.
Ryan?
Yeah, no, I always, I've heard Kate's story and heard about all of this, multiple times, but I still enjoy hearing it over and over again. It's such a good success story, especially in a town like Baltimore. That's very much like who where you went to school, to build that in a construction community. We work a lot in that community as well, and it's a very tight knit community. So for someone who's from Ohio to come to Baltimore and to do that, for lack of a better term, it's impressive, because it's hard for people that are from here to do that. So I always appreciate it, hearing it, and so it's nice to be able to take a backseat to that and like hear it in a different forum. And I'm excited to share this with everyone else. To expand on you starting Lawrence Law, probably one of the most exciting things for me recently that's happened to you is you moved into the warehouse at Camden Yards.
Right.
Just being a Baltimore baseball fan, it's like our dream.
Right.
But what have been some of the exciting things that have happened to you in recent history as you've expanded your business?
Yeah. So last summer, my older brother, who is also an attorney, called and said, we should go into business together. And I'm like, hold on. And because he'd never brought it up before. I knew that he was going to make a change. He's a partner at another firm in Baltimore. I knew he was going to make a change. But I had no idea that I was even a thought, right? I remember the phone call vividly. And I, meanwhile, had other plans in the works. I was reviewing a lease for a property in Owings Mills, a different office. And the reason that I hesitated is, I mean, he's probably the best lawyer that I know. So in terms of partnering with a successful attorney, it's absolute no-brainer. But it's family, right? And I've been my own boss for 7 years. So I didn't know how this was going to change my life and change Lawrence Law. And fast forward, a year and a half later, I guess, it's been nothing but awesome. It's been, if it's like Lawrence Law 0.2, really, like it's, we moved into a space in Baltimore. I wasn't excited about Baltimore. I'm going to just put it out there. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm from the Midwest. I wasn't excited about the city. I am now, but there's a lot going on in the city at the time. And for a young woman to say like, yeah, I'm going to spend my days and my evenings and my Saturdays every once in a while in the city, I was a little bit scared. So we started looking around at different properties. They'd say like, okay, well, we don't have parking. We don't have parking in this building, like not in the garage below us. So you're going to walk 2 blocks. And I'm like, I'm not, this isn't happening. I'm not. And I have young women working for me and not just young women, but other people working for me. And I'm not going to tell them to park 2 blocks away, in the harbor. Like, oof.
Yeah.
So, so we looked here. I'm in the warehouse at Camden Yards, and like, not only is this an awesome building, yes, it's a historic building. Number one, just the building itself. I'm looking into right field right now out my window.
Do you want to pan around and show us a quick?
I can try. Yeah.
I think everyone watching would love that. So
okay. I'm going to give it a shot.
I think it's amazing view. You guys got to see this.
Right.
Something we've never done before on the show. Wow. Look at that.
Oh,
there you go.
awesome.
And there's the outfield bar right there.
That's
there you
awesome.
So I haven't seen a game yet. Because of COVID, we were going to have a big, opening day party. It was going to be our grand opening day. But that obviously is going to have to happen in 2021. Hopefully, who knows?
Yeah. That's a really good segue. Actually, if you don't mind sharing, what have you noticed has been the greatest shift or change with COVID? And have you had to do your own pivot for your own business to figure out how to do things this new way?
Yeah.
What kind of impact has it had on your business?
I think that, and this is everyone, I think, but the old school mentality of everybody needs to be at a desk with a desktop in a server room, is out the window. I feel bad for people who are in the industries that have been affected in terms of that. But I set up everything to be remote from the get-go when we moved in here, because I wasn't sure what it was going to be like if I needed to have, if I needed to work on something during a day game, right? There's going to be people in the stands right there. Am I going to be able to concentrate on like a motion to dismiss? I don't know. So I set up everything from our phone systems. Everyone has laptops with monitors. Everything is remote, which is cool. Now we're back in the office now. So we're back at our desks and all of that. There's only 9 of us at the moment, so we don't have too many issues. But yeah, I think some of the old school mentality of being face to face has definitely been changed in a good way, right?
Yep.
And people are used to hearing kids or dogs, like it's kind of a little more laid back in some ways. It hasn't been great for the court system though. I think the court would agree with me on that. I had a couple of virtual court hearings and they have to use Skype because apparently it's the most secure. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just bumpy. And getting the judges to work the technology, I should probably stop there, but it's been challenging. I'm like, one judge let me send him a Zoom. I was like, Your Honor, if you could just let me send you a Zoom, I promise I'll make he's like, okay, I'm going to log off of my government server, get on a different one, and then we're good. Don't tell anyone. And I was like, yeah, you're so good. It's safe with me.
Oops.
Yeah.
Oops. Exactly. Well, it's also, we've come to appreciate the importance of that one-on-one human connection. I know
Mm-hmm.
Ryan and I have talked about this on a number of occasions, being in our profession, how important it is to be going to lunch and taking people out and building relationships that way. And you get to feel, touch and hear and experience emotion and someone's personality. It's just so different now today with having to do it this way in technology. Not to say that this is terrible. It's not, because this is a great way to continue to maintain that connection. But it's such a challenge when you're used to a certain way of doing business, and then all of a sudden your world changes. And I've had clients who have been impacted severely in the construction world. Because if a job site is shut down for any period of time due to obviously COVID,
right?
There's no work. There's no work to be done. So there's no invoices. There's no money flowing. So it's really challenging for, even though they still maintain and have done a lot and been able to work, it hasn't been easy because there's a lot that have been affected in a really negative way. So having to be able to pivot and maybe look for other ways of earning revenue or getting creative with the bidding process or whatever the case may be, contractors are always very resourceful and they always figure out a way, so one way or the other, the good ones. So
I've had a lot of clients with positive cases in their staff and their employees. And that's been really challenging. In terms of what do I do now? Who do I contact? We've had a lot of emergency phone calls like that just to make sure everyone stays safe. So the job site's staying safe. I have another client who is doing really well because he's sending staff. So he owns a staffing agency and he's sending people to the sites to be the COVID temperature takers and also just in general, making sure everyone's safety protocol is up to par. So, so not all businesses are doing poorly because of COVID, some of them are doing better. I'm really busy. I haven't slowed down. I need to knock on wood right now, but honest to God, I don't know if, sorry, I'm getting a phone call. I don't know if it's because of COVID or just everyone's busy. And for construction, for sure, right now, this pipeline that's actually being produced, started a year and a half ago. So what they're worried about is what happens next summer? What happens, next fall? What does that look like? Are the banks going to change their mind about financing construction jobs? And is that going to have an impact on the industry? And there's a lot of people who are working on those outlooks, but so diversification for sure in our office has definitely been a goal. Collections have been a goal, making sure we're getting paid. For attorneys, that's always an issue.
Yep.
And keeping our staff safe, keeping everyone safe is a goal for sure.
Yep.
So it's been a challenge, but we're trying to have a positive attitude and just be there for our clients.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's so many areas we could go, and we would obviously love to have you on again. I just want to obviously be respectful of your time, and so Ryan, do you have any other final questions before I drop the big question on Kate, which I'm dying to learn about?
I don't. I already got to ask my fun question, so I'll turn it over to you.
And you've heard all this
I don't want to steal your thunder. I know. Well, yeah, but
No.
I still like hearing it. So it's nice to have someone else ask the question.
Well, again, I do reiterate, Kate, it's a real blessing to have you on the show, and for someone who's doing so well and has, especially in this industry, that's a real testimony to all the hard work you put in on the front end. A lot of people don't see that. A lot of people don't see all those times where you're sitting at your kitchen table and all you're doing is you're planting seeds. You're planting seeds, and
Right.
and all the things that you're experiencing now are a result of all those seeds that you planted, all the relationships that you built over the years. So it's a real testimony to why you are so successful. And it's a great lesson for people is get out there, build relationships, start planting those seeds. And if you haven't started on something that you've been dying to start or wanting to start, now's the best time. Just do it. Just take the first step and take that leap of faith, because you have an awesome story and it's very inspiring for a lot of people. So thank you for that. So that being the lead in and the segue into the next big question is, I'm going to paint a scenario for you, and I'm looking forward to hearing your answer. Is, let's say you're retired and you're sitting in your rocking chair, looking back on your career, and you're thinking about everything. It's like a movie reel going on in your head. What would you have, as you're looking back in your life, what do you want your legacy and impact to be? How do you want to be remembered?
So you prepped me for this question. So I've been thinking about it since I opened the email last night. Because it's hard for me sometimes, even when I have a coach that I work with. Ryan knows him. His name's David Kelly. And David is always asking me, it's called Growth Solutions. He's always asking his clients, like, what's your end goal? Like, why are you doing this? Why are you spending time away from your family to do this when you could go get a job and probably make it as much, Mm-hmm. Or like, what drives you, right? He'll ask those questions too. And it's hard for me. Like, I have to sit there and like, actually, I have to like rest my mind and figure that out sometimes. And early on, honest to God, like, I think this is dorky, but I'm sure you guys will appreciate it. Like, I'm motivated by making my family proud, right? Like, making my mom and dad proud. They gave up so much for me that I just want them to know that it was worth it. But so that's early on, and that's still the case. And now it's even my husband, Chris, right? Because he's given up so much and been such a good supporter. But one of the things that I was telling Ryan the other day, you don't learn anything in law school. You learn how to think like a lawyer. I shouldn't say you don't learn anything. But as far as running a practice or they didn't teach me anything about business development or how to keep your books, like none of that. I had to learn all of that on my own or, learn from people like David who taught me how to do it. And the biggest thing that I've struggled with, I think, is leadership. So being a good leader, right? But I think it's one of the most important things. I've learned that it's one of the most important things in taking your, tiny little business on your kitchen table where you are the only employee to something that is recognized as a law firm, a great construction law firm regionally in Maryland. So just like, I'm not going to say I want to be known for helping people, but I want to be known for being a good leader and for for building a team, building a strong team, more than just myself. I want to be able to retire and know that Lawrence Law is still helping the construction industry, still an integral part of protecting construction companies. So that was my thought, being a good leader. I read books about it. I listen to podcasts about it. Like, it does not come naturally to me because I was brought up like, you do your work. Like, you have to get your work done and you have to do a really good job at it. Right. And so when you're brought up like that, like, by brought up, I mean other attorneys that I worked for treated me that way, that like, that's how I treated other associates. And I'm like, that doesn't work for everyone. Like, every employee is a different person with different motivations. And you have to be good at recruiting, and then you have to be good at keeping them and making them happy. And so that's what I'm learning about always. And so that's what I would like for my legacy to be, as a good leader.
That's awesome. Well,
thank you guys so much.
This has been such an awesome interview. I'm extremely grateful. I can't speak of Ryan, but in general, for just the trusted advisor community, you're a real model and real inspiration. So we're very grateful that you were able to take your time and join us. And we'd love to have you back again, because there's so many more places we could go and to learn more about you. But let's do it. Let's do it again. I'd be happy to join. So listen, if you guys have gotten value out of this show and listening to the podcast or watching us on YouTube, please consider subscribing, because we're always going to be putting out great content. The most important thing for us is that we're creating value for you and creating value for your business and other trusted advisors who are in our industry. That's the impact and legacy that we want to have on building this trusted advisor community. And it's a passion of ours. So thank you guys so much, Ryan. Thank you, Kate. We wish you guys, everybody, tremendous success and abundance, and looking forward to seeing everybody on the next show for, again, some more hot topics. So,
all right. Thank you guys so much. I really enjoyed this.
You bet.
I'll talk to you later.
Thank you.